We want to help build our vision of what the customs broker, we're both from the customs side, but the customs broker freight forwarder should be. And you mentioned Airbnb and Uber, and what they have in common, and what they have in common with Flexport is the platform. We're building a platform for global trade, just kind of like, an everyday user uses any of the platforms that are out there for what they want to use it for.
Before we get started with the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Global Training Center. As trade compliance professionals, you want to make sure that your procedures and documentation are completed as correctly as possible to avoid any delays and possible fines. We provide a range of trade compliance courses that will fit your needs. From in-person or web training to recorded on-demand courses, we can train one or even thousands on your team through your learning platform or on our portal. We can even customize a private session for your team. Go to globaltrainingcenter.com to find out more.
Hey folks, welcome back to Simply Trade. We're back for another show, and I'm going to look forward to this one for this time. But as we're at the end of spring, first part of summer. A lot of things happening. It seems like everybody is really busy. Either they're getting ready to go on vacation or have come back from vacation, and then you're playing the catch-up kind of scenario and all of that, all that fun stuff. So, Lalo, how are you doing, my friend? Because I feel like I have not stopped. I need a vacation. I want to go hit some golf balls or go to the lake or something. But how are you doing, my friend?
Oh, doing good. Thank you, Andy. And like you said, I guess we just got back from vacation a couple of weeks ago, and trying to still catch up, and trying to get things rolling, because we know now what I call the conference season is coming. The trade conferences that are coming up, and they suddenly happen between spring break all the way up to Labor Day or around that time period. When my son was in Boy Scouts, and we used to call that flag season. So we used to put out flags in yards, and that was the flag season from from Memorial Day all the way to Veterans Day, which is sometime in November. But we were busy all the time, putting up like a couple of 200-300 flags on yards. So that's also conference season for us, I guess, for us in the trade business.
Well, and then you have in the summer, you have a lot of competitive sports going on, and then there are people committed to trying to get themselves into shape and all that. I've worked so hard on this keg here that I want to keep it. Anyway, hey, listen, we've got a good show today. I'm looking forward to it, folks. We've got a couple of folks from Flexport that not only do they have a lot of knowledge in the industry, but both of them are very well respected. It's just known for a while and whatnot, but we're bringing on Tom Gould and Bernie Hart. Bernie was on our show a while back and was phenomenal there. And now we get both of them. So I will say, appreciate you guys coming on board and for our show. Looking forward to a good discussion today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Andy.
Thanks. Yeah.
We're really excited. I am also, especially because I love the technology part of it. And this truly meshes technology with the physical part of freight forwarding and a lot more, that we'll find out here. So welcome, guys. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Flexport has been one of those companies that came out of nowhere and now is quite a dominant force or player in the, I guess it would be transportation and logistics or brokerage, the whole gambit, or what?
All of it.
All of the above.
All of it is a platform.
Not that it would be any easier to manage, right?
Of course.
I always compare them. They're the logistics version of like Uber, Airbnb. They disrupted the industry in trade, so to me they're the disruptors, like Uber disrupted the taxi cab industry and Airbnb disrupted the hotel industry. So that's how I usually like to compare them.
Well, Bernie, let me ask you a quick question before we get into talking about how, by the way, folks, we're going to be talking about how to pick a customs broker, or how to, I guess in my sense, it would be how to manage a broker through maybe some scorecards or matrix, or what do you do? What do you look at and all that. But Bernie, what's been going on? Maybe one of your top things that you've been dealing with since we last talked to you a few months ago.
Yeah, the markets have been volatile, and I say the markets, really the freight markets and just supply chains in general. Coming out of COVID, there's a lot of built up inventory, so now folks are working through that. They're trying to figure out and manage their supply chains better, make them more resilient based on what we saw previously. Of course, there's been a couple of hacks in the industry, so a lot of businesses are looking at what can they do for more resiliency, visibility, transparency in their overall supply chain. When you take that and then add on it like UFLPA and what we're seeing with forced labor and a lot of enforcement on that side, these are all very good tools, if you will, to help business and international trade in general. But they can be very disruptive to a lot of our clients and what they are faced with from an execution perspective.
Well, especially from a standpoint, if they're in the role is like, what should I be doing now? Because it's all coming at me from several different angles and whatever. Tom, how about yourself? You and I have not gotten to talk in quite some time, and it's always great seeing you, my friend. But
Great seeing you too, Andy and Lalo, and thanks for having us on the show. We're really enjoying it. Yeah, it's been crazy busy for me too. And Lalo, I love what you said about comparing us to Uber and Airbnb. And it's fun being at a company that's a disruptor, especially when you're Bernie and I. We've both been in the industry 30 plus years, and I think we both kind of came here with the same goal in mind, and that is we want to help build our vision of what the customs broker, we're both from the customs side, but the customs broker freight forwarder should be. And you mentioned Airbnb and Uber, and what they have in common with Flexport is the platform. We're building a platform for global trade, just kind of like, an everyday user uses any of the platforms that are out there for what they want to use it for. Well, what we're looking to do and what we are doing is building this platform that allows companies that move goods internationally to have a single platform where they manage all of their data, all of their communications. And it's really fun being, at a company and being in a position where we can, help guide what that's going to look like in the future.
I love it. Okay, so if somebody is out here looking at wanting to put out a bid for a customs broker, or wanting to look in and say, you know what, we need to change brokers, or they're just now getting into it and they say, how do I pick one? It's like, let me go to Yellow Pages, or do we even have Yellow Pages anymore? I guess
haven't seen one in a while.
I've just dated myself. It's like, okay. But anyway, I Google it, I guess, is like whatever and all. I mean, there's a whole list of folks that come up no matter what you look at and whatever. So what should I do? What should I be looking at in some of the first considerations before I actually start calling companies to talk to?
Attention all trade geeks. The G-Tech conference is coming to Oklahoma City and you won't want to miss it. Mark your calendars for July 30th through August 1st and join us for a jam-packed event with expert-less sessions and networking opportunities. And guess what? The Simply Trade podcast will be recording live at the event. Don't miss this unique chance to be featured on a show and share your insights with fellow trade professionals. We'll see you in Oklahoma City, where trade compliance takes center stage. Go to www.ncbfaa.org and become part of the action.
Do you want to start? Do you want me to, Tom?
I thought you'd take that the first step at that one, Bernie.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Sure. So first thing I like to talk about or to look at, and I encourage clients to do this as well, and just businesses in general, when you're thinking about brokerage is really a commodity. Like you just said, Andy, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of choices that businesses can work with. And a lot of those choices are regional, some are national, some are global for businesses to be considered. But one of the things that I think from a landscape perspective, what's definitely changed is how we can take the supply chain and take unstructured data, turn it into structured data, and then take that data and turn it into useful information. And when I say useful information, that's information that businesses can actually use and it's actionable for them. It's not stuff that's going to get reported on in the next QBR or 30, 60, 90 days out about failures. It's how can you basically make your supply chain work better, faster, cheaper for you. And I think brokers that are embracing technology and are embracing the ingestion of data to take that unstructured data, turn it into that structured data, and then turn it into a value opportunity for clients.
Unstructured data and turning it into structured data. So let's elaborate a little bit more. Unstructured data would be like an individual shipment that's coming through, that it can come in different formats. And then you're trying to get it. It's like, well, if it goes into an entry, then that starts getting into the structured side of things. Part of the other scenario is, what about the classification? Is this a part that comes in and the compliance person may not know about it? So it's unstructured at that point, going, there's a shipment rolling. Is that what, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. That's not sanitary,
Nope.
but tell me what, if I got that right, or, I'm dumb as a box of rocks here. So you're going to have to draw a picture for me.
No, that's absolutely perfect. And we like to talk about it. There's 3 supply chains that always execute simultaneously: the physical, compliance, and the financial. So what you really want to be able to do, and the thing behind this is, we all like to talk about structured data. We like to talk about EDI. We like to talk about API, but this industry we're in doesn't survive on that. You get some companies that can give you 30 or 40, maybe 50% electronic, and the rest of it is all done by email. It's all done by spreadsheets and PDF documents. So what you need to be able to do is, doesn't matter what the document type is, you need to be able to get data off of a commercial invoice, off of a packing list, off of a bill of lading. And that data and information is the requirements that each government is asking for to get it out of a country and into a country. You have to assimilate all of that data and information. But it's not just the data, for example, in the United States, it's not just the data for the 3461 and 7501. There's a ton more data and information that's on those commercial invoices. The ship from, ship to location, there's plant codes, manufacturer IDs, all of that data and information is valuable to clients. And what we want to be able to do is get that information in their hands as quickly as possible so that they can make decisions with that data, better decisions than what they've got today, which is really a reactionary process in today's supply chain.
So that structured format is where it's, where it's coming willy-nilly from all kinds of different formats. And then it gets into a scenario when you're saying structured, it's where something can be done with that information.
Correct.
And a decision can be made. Okay, that's good. The other, I would say, that comes to mind, and maybe I maybe jumping ahead a little bit, but also especially if it's a commodity that has been ordered, comes in for a company, it was not in their catalog of parts or whatever they're listing. So being able to take that, it's now structured from the entry, but can get put back into their database for the next go round. So you don't have another hiccup in there. That would be, to me, a smart way to go.
Exactly. The couple of ways to look at it. So, for example, if you're taking a commercial invoice, you ingest that commercial invoice. You need to be able to take that commercial invoice however it's presented to you. And every client could have multiple scenarios. Could be PDF, could be email, could be EDI, could be a CSV, doesn't really matter. But when you pull that into the platform should be smart enough on each of those data elements to look up that part number. And if that part number is in the product library, by way of example, is it classified the same in the product library as on the commercial invoice? If it's not, what does the business rules SOP tell us to do? Override it? Kick out a referral to the client, kick out a referral to the broker. If it's not there, does it need to be classified? Obviously it does. Who's going to classify it? And you want to get that exception noted, documented as quickly and early as possible to get it rectified. So for an ocean shipment, you can clear that thing 5 days out while it's on international waters. Most expensive component of any supply chain is inventory, and you want to make sure that those exceptions are handled well in advance so that when you do hit the border, you're not going to be slowed down, and it's going to be able to flow through for cycle time, inventory turns, things along those lines to really help businesses, again, better manage their overall process, but drive efficiency and cost savings, cash flow.
Okay, so let's stop for a second. So for our listeners here, we haven't really gotten into, okay, I've got a Google search here kind of thing. We're looking at it. We were just talking about, you got a list of brokers. We're just talking about the concept. So if you stop and think, we're talking about, you're going to need someone, a vendor in this case, that would eventually become your broker, that can help you take unstructured data, as we've talked about it, and put it in a structured environment so that you can, people can make decisions, take the appropriate actions and all of that. So there's going to be some system connectivity in that, system capabilities in that. There's going to be obviously some people that, that are managing transactions and being able to take some of that information around. So there's going to be collaboration with different departments and all of that. We haven't even gotten to where, okay, now how do I pick one yet? So there's a lot behind this. You don't have to be a computer programmer in this compliance arena or something like that, but it's like you got to understand the concepts on this. So it's like, as we get into this, it's kind of like having multiple pots on a stove. You start turning up the heat on several different burners all at the same time. You have that capability to cook quite a few things at once, but anyway, I don't know if that was a good analogy or not.
Hey, Andy, I'd love to expand on what you were just saying, because I think you're going in the right direction. And when I look at the question of how do you pick the broker, how do you pick, really, in some cases it really becomes a personal decision, right? Who are you going to pick as your business partner that's going to make your job the easiest?
Oh, Tom, you just hit something that's important. A business partner, a broker is more than just a regular vendor, isn't it? It's a intimate business relationship that they got to understand you and you got to understand them.
Yeah. And you look at things like the structured data and so forth, but think about the perspective of the person that's making the decision that I need to go find a new partner to work with. I need to go find a new customs broker. They might be a compliance director at a company, or procurement officer, something like that. They should be looking at what business partner is going to make their job the easiest. And if you think about their job is taking all this information that Bernie was just talking about, that's coming from all different all different other parties in various different formats, and they need to synthesize it. They need to look at it. They need to be able to make business decisions based on it. And so really, companies today that are looking for a business partner, a customs broker as a business partner, are looking for a company that are going to make their job easier. And that means a company that's going to take all this information and put it together in a way that's easily accessible, and a way that's easily understandable, digestible by many different parties in the transaction, right? We're not just talking about your needs if you're the compliance director of the company, but we're talking about everybody on your team. But we're also talking about the suppliers. We're talking about your buyers. We're talking about your IT team. There's lots of different parties that are involved. And the customs broker has a unique position in that they are very much a clearinghouse for a lot of the data that the company needs to make business decisions. And so you're looking for a partner that's going to be able to make that available to you as when you need it, how you need it, and make it as easy as possible to get it.
Well, the brokerage function in today, customs brokerage, that is become more than just somebody pushing paper around, creating an entry, sending it to customs. It's taken it a step further where, as you just said, to become that partner, they also are basically like a consultant or advisor to say, hey, this particular transaction, you need to look at it. Or, by the way, is this a new supplier? They're sending up a red flag to say, this is somebody we've not seen before on your behalf. Those kinds of things. And so there's got to be a scenario where you're not just a number, but they're actually part of and invested in your success as well, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. So you're enabling the people to be successful in their role by pulling all that information together, by helping them make those decisions. Some of the things that we're working on here at Flexport, Bernie mentioned a product library. It's a central repository for all the information for all of the company's products required to import or export that product into or out of any country. One of the things that I think is changing in our industry is we're moving away from being a U.S. customs broker to being a customs broker that will handle movement of goods across any international border, not just across one international border in one direction.
I just had a big meeting that ran long, and then we were talking about that very thing. And it's like multiple ports, multiple countries of export, all kinds of things going on, and yet they can handle it. And it's like, that's, you know what? I feel good because I got a broker that's going to take care of it, kind of thing. You know, that's what the client was talking about. So that's excellent. Excellent. So what do we do? It's like, all right, I find somebody that seems to be having at least some capabilities systemically to do some things. What else should I be doing then?
Yeah, I always look at it from there's 5 key areas that everybody is always interested. Visibility is the number one requested attribute of any supply chain.
Visibility such as what a bit like tracking a shipment or the entry, or
it's actually everything. It's everything from the PO, which usually kicks out. It's a closed loop process from PO all the way to final mile. Everybody's looking for either data elements, milestones. They're looking for updates of the most relevant information, the most timely and accurate information. But when you look at the components that everybody really wants to track, it's cost, quality, cycle time, customer satisfaction, and then compliance. And it's not in any order. They're all just as important as each other from a business perspective. But what businesses need to be thinking about when they think about their broker shouldn't be just talking to them in terms of a QBR, a quarterly business review. We call that a quality business review. We want to show them dashboards where they can see their metrics in those 5 areas: cost, quality, cycle time, customer sat, and compliance. We want to show that to them via a dashboard. But then when we actually sit down on a monthly, quarterly, whatever the cadence is basis from a Flexport perspective, we not only want to talk to them about what's going on in their business, what do they see from a forecasting perspective, but we also need to bring to the table what is going on in the industry that's going to affect them, whether that's UFLPA exclusions, stuff like that.
Bernie, hang on just a second. You've hit on something that I think is very important. I mean, with what Tom was saying earlier, being a partner with a client, being a partner, here's something from, again, our listeners. What you need to be doing is the forecasting side. Bernie, you hit on it. It's like you as a client, if your broker is sitting down with you and looking, you need to be able to share with them, what are your company's plans? Are you looking at opening up a new plant somewhere? Are you looking at adding new vendors or new products, or trying to expand into new markets? You're importing widgets from one place and you're going to sell them and export them to other countries. Any and all that kind of stuff. Bernie, would you say, is that the kind of stuff you're talking about, is that being able to share that?
Exactly. It's that strategic partner concept. So when you sit down, yes, it's always great to talk about your metrics, your target KPIs and all of that stuff, but that should be a daily occurrence. When you get together with your broker, you should be mapping out what are the most important things to this company. They got a new launch coming up? Do they have a new product they're going to introduce? To your point, are they expanding to new markets? Are they considering an acquisition? And in that acquisition, there's a lot you can do to figure out, looking at their ACE data by way of example, just to get a really good, solid understanding of the business you're about to buy. And things along those lines.
Well, I was just going to say that works so well with what you're saying, in that I love it. But again, if a company shares data with you, it empowers you as a broker to then come back and go, just like what you said, here's some things that we're aware of in the industry in these particular areas that you need to be aware of. So, Tom, would you?
Yeah, you're going in the right position, right direction. Customs brokers are in a rather unique position within an industry, within a company's business partners, in that we are privy to a lot of the company's data, right? Because we're handling your transactions day to day, your imports, your exports, but we're also privy to information that we're gathering all the time. We're involved in various different trade associations. We're involved with the government. We're constantly having communications with various different government officials, different regulators. And so we have insight into what's happening, what might be coming down the road, that companies don't typically have unless they have somebody that's involved in doing that. And only the largest companies really have somebody that's able to do that. So one of the things that we bring to the table is we understand your company's data. We understand your issues and your processes, but we also understand what's happening in the broader industry, whether it be your industry sector or the broader, trade compliance, customs, brokerage industry, or the logistics industry. And so we're able to share with you insights that you may not be able to gather yourself. And we can share those insights with you in a way that you have them available to you and to your team and to all of your business partners that need that information.
That to me right there, Tom, that is an area that I didn't expect us to get into, but I'm going to stop for a second and make a comment. Again, I keep coming back to our listeners. Folks, what Tom just mentioned is phenomenal. And this is where if you're talking about regulatory and industry affairs, things that are going on, the broker, if you can't handle all the information. It's just information overload to handle everything that comes at you. So you got to pick when you can, I guess, pick and choose your battles in a sense. Ask the broker as far as some of the priorities on that. They can tell you some things in there, and maybe you need as a company to inform not only your management, but write a letter on behalf of a situation or whatever to, add as a company, I'm for or against a certain regulation or legislation that would support a situation. Your broker could be a key.
And we're actually at a very interesting time right now in our industry, and that is Congress, as we speak, is discussing customs modernization legislation. And it looks like customs is going to be taking up a bill and proposing new legislation that'll regulate how our industry works. And we're at the forefront of that, right? We're involved. I'm a member of the Customs Commercial Operations Advisory Committee, COAC. And so I'm involved in conversations with the executives at CBP, at DHS, at Department of Treasury. And we're also involved with multiple trade associations where we're talking to members of Congress about what those laws are going to look like. And I'm able to formulate our Flexport policy position by looking at the information that's important to our clients, by looking at the data that our clients provide for us and put on our platform. I'm able to look and see industry trends and see what our clients want, and I'm able to advocate for them with that.
I can tell you, folks, if you're a customer of Flexport, you need to take advantage of Tom and Bernie here. But Tom, you've been in the industry a long time. You've always been so wise in a lot of things. I know we kid each other, but I mean, you've always been a pleasure to work with to affect positive change in the industry, my friend. So. Okay, so let's keep going real quick because we're going to probably run out of time. Like I said, man, I'd love talking to you guys. As far as your capabilities, the information as you're going through, you've talked about some of the essential things that you're as a company we should be looking at, and then sharing that with the brokers. What else should you do? It's like you engage with people to have them come out and say, well, how much does it cost to do an entry, or what do you do? How do you engage somebody?
Tend to look at it from the standpoint of, first of all, it's not about Flexport. It's not about the platform. It's not even about the tech. It's about what is that client faced with today? What are their bottlenecks? What are their constraints? What do they don't have access to that they wish they did? And then putting the right plan in place to be able to solve for that. So is your broker and the strategic partner you're about to engage with Are they going to be a problem solver? Are they going to be somebody that's going to be part of your overall team that is going to help you come up with the right scenarios, the right business decisions that is going to propel your business to the next level, keep you competitive from an industry perspective? Be looking at not only landed costs, but predictive landed costs. What are they doing to really try and get ahead of that curve to get you, like we talked about earlier, better access to data, turning your data into an asset that becomes something you can use internally?
And I guess one of the things that I liked about your model, and especially early on when you guys were getting started as Flexport, is that anybody who has access to you, they don't have to retain you like the big guys, and have this big contract with you all, and I'm going to do all this volume. I'm talking more about like the small people, right? Like the e-commerce folks. And that's an advantage. I mean, a small mom and pop shop selling on Etsy that doesn't do 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 million a year. They might be doing 1 million or less, or a couple 100,000, have access to services what someone like a multi-million-dollar company has because they use someone like Flexport, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Our mission is to make global trade easy for everyone. And we take that seriously, and we talk about it all the time. And everyone means the big giant company as well as the small little mom and pop. So yeah, and that's one of the things that a data platform that's well designed and well thought out can do a really good job at doing, right? Because the mom and pop needs to know the classification of their product. So does the big company. And if it's regulated by another agency, all of that information, those requirements are the same regardless of the size of the company. And so we've decided to build this platform that's going to be able to support from the small mom and pop, we call them SMB, or small and medium sized businesses, all the way up to the largest Fortune 500 companies.
All right. So let's say that we move down the road and again, I think, Bernie, you mentioned it really comes down to a personal choice a lot of times, which is a relationship with the salespeople. So that, it comes down to that and the people you interact with. Okay, fine. Let's just say that we wind up picking a broker. Let's say I'm like, okay, I want ABC, whatever. Now I've got them, I'm using them. Then what should I be doing to say, well, I have just so many entries coming through, or is there something I should be doing as an importer to say, how should I manage my broker?
Yep. So I like to look at that just from the standpoint of the relationship can never be static. It can never be just about, here's my timeliness, here's my accuracy, here's my KPIs. It has to be much more than that. Again, to the point we made earlier, Tom was on it as well, as strategic partnership is, what can we do to be faster, better, cheaper, put up the right processes and procedures, to be less reactive, to be more proactive, to what are those areas, those instances where we can help them streamline the overall process. We were talking, and which I love from Lalo, we're talking about, the SMB market and the small guys, giving them access to the platform, giving them the same capabilities as somebody that ships, 500,000 times on with governments, giving them the same approach on that. But even for the enterprise, the mid-market, and the large accounts, a lot of those businesses feel stuck. And they feel stuck because mainly they put a lot of IT infrastructure in place. They've done some integrations. They've done a lot of stuff that it's like, if I have to untangle this, the switching costs associated with this, I don't want to take that on. It's a multi-year effort. But what you really need to do is you need to embrace the fact that one of the things that we focus heavily on at Flexport is we want to accept the process as is, exactly as you've got it today, and then put a plan in place over time to get you the efficiency, the effectiveness, the real value drivers, work on a plan that makes sense for the company and makes sense for pretty much everyone involved in it. So if you approach it from that angle, I think it becomes a much more tolerable process, especially if you're one of the big guys or somebody that's invested a lot in integration. You have third-party software, third-party touch points that you have to deal with today. You need to be working with a broker that's going to take all of that into consideration, put a plan in place that makes sense for you to do that migration, but is also focused on where am I going to be in the next year, 3 years, 5 years, and how is your broker going to contribute to your overall success? And that success, again, is through cycle time, cost management, quality, that stuff.
I would say when you bring on a broker or you change to a broker, one of the things that comes to mind is that first thing, you've got to have at least that first week, maybe if you've got a high volume, I would say almost daily meetings, like quick conference calls. They can only be 30 minutes maybe at times, but at least daily. And then you revert to a weekly meeting for the next 3 weeks. So that covers the first month. And then after that, maybe every 2 weeks for the second month. And then, one more time in the third month, unless you need it. And then from then on, you can just do your quarterly broker reviews. Would that be a good sequence or cadence, or is that overkill?
It's definitely not overkill. We refer to it as a white glove service. So it's exactly that. You got to get to a steady state before you bring on the next phase associated with it. We have some clients where their implementation plan goes for 6 months. And then even after the end of the 6 months, you've got another 3 months of hypercare of really making sure that there's no exceptions, that you've thought through everything, that everything has had a chance to go from beginning to end in their supply chain. So it's a lot of those areas. But it's definitely not overkill. Definitely not.
Well, that right there would be, not only the setup. I mean, here's one of the things I guess you were talking about your platform is, as I'm thinking through it, multiple people within a company would need access to your platform, but they're going to look at the same data, but from a different perspective.
And not just people from your company, but business partners, right? So you've got your suppliers, you've got your carriers, you've got your customs brokers, freight forwarders, but then within your company, you've got, your logistics people, you may have your design people that are concerned about the classification and the duty rates. And everybody has their own way of interpreting the information and has a different need, but they're all working off of the same information. And that's why it's so important that all the information be located in a single platform where all the data is consistent in that platform. And not just the data about the products, but the data about the shipments as they're moving throughout their life cycle, and also just overall communications. One of the great things about our platform is all communications are stored in the platform. Think about your typical process where you might send an email to your freight forwarder, your customs broker. You might send a text message, or in the olden days of a fax. There might be a phone call.
Or telex. Go even further.
Telex, exactly. With our platform, all of that information, all of those communications are together in the platform, and they're all related to whatever transaction or whatever piece of information is important to that particular communication. So if you're looking at a shipment and you want to see all the communications related to that shipment, you want to be able to go to one place and see all the communications. Or if you're looking at a product that's evolved and you want to see how it was classified and who classified it, again, you want to see all of those communications, all that back and forth in one location. And that's why it's key to have a platform that you can rely on for all of your product, all of your movement of product, and all of your international trade.
Oh, I love it, man. Guys, this is outstanding. When people are putting forth, I guess, a bid or something, what seems to be maybe something that either they're a mistake that they're asking for information for, or something that they're asking for that's irrelevant? Or is there something that people are not putting in their bids that you're saying, you should really do this?
One of the things that I'll say that I'm not seeing enough of, or we're not seeing enough of, is where businesses, when they're looking for a broker, they should actually provide data. And what do I mean by this is maybe a sample product library, a sample commercial invoice, a sample packing list, and basically say, now show me this on your platform. You ingest it into your platform and show me how I'm going to be able to work with this data, these documents, how this is going to work work in your process. I think that has been missing. Now we've seen the last couple of larger RFPs have included that to some level, but I think businesses need to be doing more and more of that, because that is a true tell sign about being able to manage data, taking that unstructured data, turning it into actual data to actionable events, and just asking their business partner, the broker they want to deal with, show me. Here's my commercial invoice. Here's my packing list. Here's my product library. Show me. What can you guys do with this?
Thing that I think that companies or people are not asking as much about, and that is, what can you as a broker, a service provider, as a business partner do to help me demonstrate to my company that I'm doing my job and I'm doing a good part of my job? So a lot of what we deal with are companies that take advantage of things like free trade agreements and other duty saving strategies, or they're involved in importing products that are regulated very heavily by multiple government agencies. And what companies often, and when I say companies, what compliance directors of companies often come to us and say is, I need to have justification for making this switch. Basically, what they want to ask is, what can we as a customs broker do for them to help them demonstrate to their company that they should be making the switch to us? So what types of savings opportunities are we presenting to them? What types of regulatory issues are we preventing them from, or supporting them so that they don't have, and so forth? And with that, I'm going to have to say goodbye.
Awesome.
Tom,
well, thank you for
it's been a
coming
pleasure,
on.
my friend. I am so thankful for getting to see you again. And hopefully we'll get to do it again soon. Thank you. You guys do a great job, and we really, really appreciate y'all allowing Tom and Bernie the second go around here, but also, all the best to the folks at Flexport here.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you all very, very much. Really appreciate it. I was thrilled to get Lalo's email talking about coming on again. I was like, yes, I would love to. Yeah.
And anybody else that's listening, you don't have to wait for my email. Please reach out. I mean, we'd be more than glad to listen to what you might want to talk about. And we do have a little bit of a backlog right now of people coming on the podcast, but we'd love to put you on the calendar. So just reach out to us and let us know if you want to come on. So
we're having to get to where, Lalo and I, when we first started doing this, we were publishing one show a week. And in 8 months' time, we already went past 50 shows, and we are publishing, we're up to 2 shows, sometimes 3 shows a week. So that's and y'all keep listening, so it's like, hey, we really appreciate it. So with that, folks, I hope y'all have a great day and all the best.
Thank you very much for joining us. Simply Trade is brought to you by the generous contributions of Global Training Center. You can follow the show and GTC on LinkedIn or Twitter and other social networks. Make sure you check out the show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's show with all the important links. Also, make sure that you share this with a friend and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. We really like hearing from you. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to rate and review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, or would like to sponsor Simply Trade, or suggest any topic you would like for us to discuss, please contact us via email at simplytrade@globaltrainingcenter.com, or you can DM us on Twitter at simplytradepod. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Happy trading. Simply Trade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by Simply Trade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. You should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only, and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.